temperature in Africa is rising more than the average temperature. And so you could look at those connections and see how nature ties into people's livelihoods. My name is Oladosu Adenike, the founder of the Climate Action Initiative from Nigeria, and I'm a current fellow of the panel Planetary Thinking. The working title for my project is on how I'm using the Earth's observation to restore Lake Chad. We're trying to create awareness about this crisis while using satellite images like the remote sensing tools to see how we could help to restore the lake that have been shrinking since 1960s. And why the lake is shrinking is a mixed factor of climate vulnerability, and of course there is human activities. Why it's shrinking is because there are also people using the water, the rivers that feeds into Lake Chad, and so before it gets into Lake Chad, it reduces the rate. And so the more the vulnerability of climate change, that means reduced rainfall and increase in temperature, the more it decreases the rate at which the rivers that feeds into Lake Chad. From the result I've gotten so far, it shows that the northern pool of the Lake Chad dries faster than the southern pool, and as well, the 1970s to 1980s droughts affected or led to the barrier, or the Great Barrier that divided the northern and the southern pole. And so restoration of Lake Chad is key towards strengthening livelihoods, building peace and stability in the region, and as well, it will also strengthen the overall democracy in the region, looking at the fact that the region is being affected by armed group, non-state armed group like Boko Haram, ISAC. And so a way of restoring it is a way of giving people hope. You could now wonder what it's going to look like in the coming decades or before the end of this decade. So trying to get the idea of how the lake is shrinking and looking at the facts why it is tied to the importance in the region is because between Nigeria, Niger, Chad, and Cameroon, those three countries, over 30 million people depend on this lake for survival. And so now imagine that as it shrinks, it also displaces people. As at the report, it says that over 10.7 million people have been displaced, and more than 3 million people are in dire need of humanitarian assistance. I have a website called livelihoods.org. These are data that is very difficult for people to access, and so this data is going to help. It's going to be available for people to make use of it, and for me to be able to partner with other organizations that does a lot in the Lake Chad region. We are now faced with different crises that defines us as humanity, and it's hard time for us to think, to be innovative, to be creative, to come up with solutions that could help in solving this planetary related issue. We need to do something. We cannot just sit down and keep waiting quietly, for our government to do something. We also need to push for actions that are needed to be done. Yeah, I feel the panel is the best place because it shows, it tends to raise awareness, and as well, looking at the fact that Lake Chad is not a common global issues that people know about. And I get this question more often from those in the global west or global north. Where's Lake Chad? How can we know more about it? And so this is like bringing Lake Chad related issues or raising the awareness on how we could possibly solve the problem, and also raising the awareness in this society for people to get to know more about Lake Chad and to find ways of trying to support in different ways. What motivates me also is the fact that it could help to bring about justice for women and girls, because in this region there are over 20 million child brides, and so solving the Lake Chad related crisis is like bringing hope in the face of crisis. and it's like helping to achieve justice. Justice in terms of food security, zero hunger, no poverty. In fact, all the sustainable development goals. And I think it's what motivates me the most to keep doing this because I feel if we could get justice or restore the child, then we'll have all the justice that we need in our systems and there will be no Boko Haram because people will no longer be displaced away from their livelihoods. I hope my activism is going to achieve a just world. Justice for women and girls and equality, justice for our climate. I'm encouraging young people that is coming on board that they should keep fighting. No voice is too little to be heard.